How to Be Less Awkward, a Guide to Social Cues for the Socially Awkward. Chapter 1. The Awkward Awakening. The Unspoken Rules of the Social Jungle. Welcome to the wild and wonderful realm of social interactions, where the unspoken rules often carry more weight than the spoken ones. Think of it as a social jungle, where navigating through the underbrush of body language, eye contact, and the occasional awkward silence feels like trying to dodge a herd of stampeding zebras. The key to survival? Learning to read the cues that others may not even realize they're broadcasting. You might think you're attending a casual gathering, but in reality, you've stepped into a minefield of unacknowledged social expectations. First up, let's talk about the sacred art of eye contact. It's a dance, really. A delicate waltz where too little makes you look like a shy deer caught in headlights, and too much can transform you into that one overly intense person who stares into your soul like they're trying to read your deepest secrets. Aim for that sweet spot where you engage without making the other person question whether they should be calling the authorities. A good rule of thumb is to maintain eye contact for about 70% of the conversation. If you start to feel like a contestant on a bizarre game show, you're probably in the right zone. Next, we must address the infamous personal space bubble. Imagine it as an invisible force field surrounding each individual, varying in size based on cultural norms, personal comfort levels, and how recently they've had a shower. If you get too close, you risk invading their bubble and eliciting the same reaction one might have if a bear suddenly plopped down next to them at a picnic. To avoid this social faux pas, practice the art of gauging distance. If someone leans back, consider it a sign that you might want to take a step back too, unless you're trying to convince them that you're actually a very friendly bear in disguise. Now, on to conversation starters, those magical phrases that can turn an awkward silence into a lively exchange. You might think of a conversation as a game of hot potato. Nobody wants to be the one left holding it too long. Instead of the classic, "So, what do you do?" which can feel as riveting as a tax seminar, try something a little more unexpected. If you could be any fictional character, who would you choose? Can open up a treasure chest of shared interests and wild imaginings. Just be prepared for the occasional response that could lead to a lengthy debate about the merits of Batman versus Superman. Grab your popcorn. It's about to get real. Let's not forget the importance of laughter in this social jungle. Humor is the glue that holds many interactions together, especially when the conversation takes a nosedive into the awkward abyss. Perfecting the art of self-deprecating humor can be a lifesaver. If you trip over your words, embrace it. "I'd like to thank my brain for completely shutting down during that sentence," can turn a cringeworthy moment into a shared chuckle. Remember, everyone has their awkward moments. By laughing at yours, you invite others to do the same, creating an atmosphere where vulnerability isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. Finally, let's address the fear of rejection, the ultimate predator lurking in the social jungle. In a world where not every interaction leads to a lifelong friendship or a blossoming romance, it's essential to remember that rejection is as common as mosquitoes in summer. Instead of viewing it as a personal failure, try to reframe it as an opportunity to practice your social skills. Each no brings you one step closer to a yes, or at the very least, a funny story to recount later. So, strap on your metaphorical boots, step into the social jungle, and remember, every awkward encounter is just another chance to learn, laugh, and maybe, just maybe, make a friend along the way. Why social skills are like riding a bicycle, except you might fall. Social skills are often compared to riding a bicycle, and for good reason. Just like that shiny two-wheeled contraption, social skills require balance, practice, and the occasional tumble that leaves you questioning your life choices. Picture this: you're at a party, and you decide to approach a group of people. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and as you glide over, you realize you've forgotten the first rule of social biking: don't crash into the conversation. Instead of smoothly weaving in, you end up interrupting someone mid-sentence, like a rookie cyclist who veers off course and plows into a bush. Oops. Now, let's be real. If you've ever learned to ride a bike, you know the inevitable falls are part of the process. You might scrape your knees and feel a bit embarrassed, but eventually you get back up and keep pedaling. Social skills work the same way. Each awkward moment is like a minor bicycle crash, Unpleasant in the moment, but a necessary part of becoming a pro. Maybe you try to make a joke and it lands flatter than a deflated tire. You laugh it off, but inside, your brain is doing a double backflip, questioning why you ever thought humor was your forte. With social skills, just like biking, practice makes perfect. You don't hop on a bike for the first time and expect to join the Tour de France. No, you wobble around your neighborhood, maybe even take a detour into someone's garden. Sorry, Mrs. Jenkins. Similarly, building social skills involves riding through a few awkward conversations. You might practice with your mirror, only to realize that talking to yourself isn't quite the same as chatting with real humans. But hey, at least your reflection laughs at your jokes, even if no one else does. Of course, not everyone learns at the same pace. Some folks can zoom off into the sunset, while others are still trying to figure out how to keep the bike upright. This is especially true for neurodiverse individuals who might find those unspoken social cues as confusing as a two-stroke engine. But remember, just because you're not pedaling as fast as the others doesn't mean you can't enjoy the ride. Embrace your unique style, whether it's the slow, steady approach or the daring zigzag. Each person brings their own flair to the social scene, and that's what makes it vibrant and interesting. Finally, as you navigate the social landscape, keep in mind that even the best riders fall occasionally. Embrace the possibility of mistakes, and don't let the fear of falling keep you off the bike or out of conversations. The key is resilience. So, when you find yourself in an awkward silence or misread a body language cue, laugh it off and remember that everyone has their moments of social clumsiness. With time, practice, and a sense of humor, you'll find your balance, and soon enough, you'll be riding smoothly through social situations, leaving behind the memories of those embarrassing spills. Chapter 2. Body Language. More than just waving your arms. Decoding the body. What are they really saying? Decoding body language is like trying to interpret a secret language spoken by the universe, where the words are replaced by awkward shifts, strange eye movements, and the occasional nervous twitch. If social interactions were a game of charades, most of us would need a lifetime membership to the "I have no idea what you're saying" club. For the socially awkward, reading these cues often feels like deciphering hieroglyphics while someone is shouting, "You're doing it wrong," in the background. But fear not, dear reader. With a bit of humor and patience, you can learn to navigate this mystical realm of nonverbal communication. First, let's talk about the classic crossed arms. You might think this means someone is closed off, but what if they just really enjoy their own personal space? Or perhaps they're trying to keep their sandwich from falling out of their lap. It's critical to remember that body language is context-dependent. In a crowded elevator, crossed arms could mean "please don't touch me," or "I hope this ride ends soon." So, when you find yourself in a tense moment, don't jump to conclusions. Instead, take a breath, assess the surroundings, and try not to interpret every crossed arm as an imminent social catastrophe. Next up are the eyes. You might think that maintaining eye contact is a golden rule of conversation, but did you know that staring into someone's eyes like a confused deer can be just as awkward? It's a delicate dance of glances, with the potential for tripping over your own feet. A good rule of thumb is the triangle technique. Shift your gaze between the person's eyes and mouth, creating a triangle that keeps you engaged without making them feel like they're under a microscope. And if you find yourself losing focus, just pretend you're studying the intricate details of their eyebrow game. You'll appear interested while secretly plotting your escape. Now, let's not forget about personal space. For introverts and the socially awkward, the concept of personal bubbles can be both a blessing and a curse. It's like a game of how close can I get without making this situation unbearably uncomfortable? If someone steps into your bubble and you feel like a startled cat, it's perfectly acceptable to take a tiny step back. Just don't make it look like you're dodging a metaphorical bullet. That could send the message that you're either very antisocial or just have a really weird phobia of close proximity. Balance is key here, and a casual smile can help ease any tension that arises. Finally, let's explore the art of mirroring. This technique can be your secret weapon in social situations, especially when you're trying to connect with someone who seems just as socially challenged as you. If they lean in, you lean in. If they laugh nervously, you chuckle like a cartoon character. This playful imitation not only makes you more approachable, but also helps create a bond. Just be careful not to take it too far. If they start scratching their head, don't break into a full-body impression of a monkey. That might just land you a one-way ticket to Awkwardville, population U. With practice, you'll master the art of decoding body language and turn every social interaction into an entertaining experience. The art of the nodding head and other subtle moves. The art of the nodding head is a skill that many underestimate, but it can be the secret weapon for anyone navigating the treacherous waters of social interaction. Picture this. You're at a party, and the only thing standing between you and a delightful conversation is your crippling fear of saying something utterly embarrassing. Enter the nodding head, your trusty sidekick. This little gesture doesn't just say, "I'm listening," it shouts, "I'm engaged and I totally know what you're talking about." Even if you have no clue about the latest TikTok trends or why everyone suddenly loves pineapple on pizza, a well-timed nod can make you look like the most informed person in the room. But let's not stop at nodding. There are other subtle moves that can elevate your social game from awkward to unexpectedly charming. The slight tilt of the head, for instance, can convey curiosity without ever having to utter a single word. It's like saying, "Please continue with your riveting story about the time you accidentally set your kitchen on fire," while simultaneously avoiding any actual verbal commitment. The key here is to combine these movements with a facial expression that resembles genuine interest. Think less deer in the headlights and more intrigue sphinx. Mastering the head tilt can be your ticket to fleeting moments of social confidence. Now, if the nodding and head tilting aren't enough to transform you into the social butterfly you dream of being, let's introduce the classic smile and blink combo. This is particularly effective during those long-winded monologues from well-meaning friends who might be a tad more enthusiastic about their hobbies than you are. A smile signals your appreciation for their passion, while a few controlled blinks can help you avoid the urge to zone out completely. It's a delicate balance of politeness and self-preservation, keeping you in the conversation without risking a complete loss of consciousness due to boredom. And then there's the art of the lean in. When someone is speaking, leaning slightly forward not only shows interest but also gives the impression that you're hanging on to their every word. It's like being an attentive puppy, minus the tail wagging and drooling. However, be cautious. Lean in too much and you might accidentally invade their personal space, which can lead to awkwardness levels rivaling that of a poorly timed joke. A gentle lean is your best bet, creating a bubble of intimacy that says, "I care," without making the other person feel like they're being interrogated. Finally, let's not forget the importance of practicing these subtle moves in safe environments. Role-playing exercises with friends are a fantastic way to hone your skills without the threat of social rejection looming overhead. You can simulate all sorts of scenarios: the dreaded small talk at a dinner party, the awkward silence in an elevator, or that cringeworthy moment when you accidentally call someone by the wrong name. By practicing the nod, head tilt, smile and blink, and lean in a low-stakes setting, you'll be more prepared to unleash your newfound skills in the wild. Remember, socializing is an art form, and with a little practice, you can become the Picasso of the party. Chapter 3: Conversation Starters. How to break the ice without a chisel. The classic, "So, what do you do?" And why it's not always the best. The classic icebreaker. "So, what do you do?" It's the conversational equivalent of a polite nod, but let's face it, it can feel as exciting as watching paint dry. You're at a gathering, and someone hits you with this question, and suddenly you're on the spot, feeling like a deer caught in the headlights. What do you say? Are you supposed to launch into your job description, or do you give them the abridged version of your life story? In the realm of social awkwardness, this question can be a slippery slope. You might end up in an awkward monologue about that time you accidentally stapled your tie to your desk. For many, the question seems harmless, but it often leads to an unintentional one-upmanship. You know the type. "I'm a corporate lawyer," followed by, "Oh, I'm a neurosurgeon." It's like a game of social poker, where everyone is trying to outdo each other with their impressive job titles. But the real kicker? The person asking is often just trying to fill the void of silence, not actually interested in hearing about your role as an administrative assistant, or worse, your hobby as a professional Netflix binge watcher. let's be real. Nobody has ever said, "Wow, tell me more about your spreadsheet skills," without rolling their eyes. Now, if you're an introvert or someone who's a bit socially awkward, this question can send you spiraling into a vortex of anxiety. Suddenly, you start overthinking every possible response. Should you mention your love for knitting cat sweaters or that time you saved a pigeon from a tree? The pressure to impress can be overwhelming. Instead of simply sharing about your work, you might end up revealing your latest obsession with a niche hobby, leaving your conversation partners staring blankly, wondering if they should have asked about the weather instead. Alternatively, let's consider the nonverbal cues at play here. As you fidget with your drink, your body language might scream, "Help me," while your words are desperately trying to maintain an air of confidence. The mismatch creates a delightful spectacle of awkwardness. Maybe you're nodding enthusiastically while simultaneously avoiding eye contact, leading to that delightful dance of social disarray. Remember, body language can often convey more than your words, and if your body says, "I'd rather be home with my cats," you might want to rethink your approach. So, what's the solution? Instead of diving headfirst into the usual question, try shaking things up. Why not ask something a bit more unusual, like, "What's the best thing you've watched recently?" Or, "If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be?" These questions not only ease the pressure off the "what do you do" trap, but also open the door to more engaging conversations. You'll likely find that people are far more interesting than their job titles anyway, and you might just stumble upon a new friend or at least a shared enthusiasm for cat videos. Fun questions that won't get you kicked out of the room. When navigating the treacherous waters of social interactions, the right questions can be your lifeboat. You want to steer clear of the standard, "What do you do?" Because, let's face it, that's the conversational equivalent of asking someone to recite the alphabet backwards. Instead, opt for fun, quirky questions that will ignite laughter and possibly even spark a friendly debate. Questions like, "If you could be any fictional character, who would it be and why?" are perfect. It opens the door to discussions about superpowers, beloved books, or even the psychological implications of choosing a villain, without risking a swift exit from the room. Another great question to toss into the mix is, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? This inquiry is a goldmine for humor and insight. You'll find out if your new acquaintance is a pizza purist or a loyal follower of the kale cult. Plus, it's a fantastic opportunity for them to recount that one time they got food poisoning from a questionable taco stand, which is always a conversation starter and a great way to bond over shared horror stories. Just ensure you don't suggest anything too controversial, like pineapple on pizza, unless you want to witness a culinary civil war unfold. For the introverts and neurodiverse individuals, consider asking, "What's the most ridiculous thing you believed as a child?" This question invites creativity and vulnerability, allowing people to share their quirky childhood misconceptions. You might hear about someone who thought that eating watermelon seeds would sprout a fruit tree in their tummy, or the kid who genuinely believed he could fly if he just ran fast enough. Laughter ensues, and before you know it, you've built a bridge of relatable experiences that makes you both feel a little less awkward. Just make sure to share your own ridiculous belief too. It shows you're in this together. Not all questions have to be self-reflective. Sometimes, lighthearted hypotheticals work wonders. Try asking, "If animals could talk, which one would be the rudest?" This question is a guaranteed giggle fest as everyone conjures up images of sassy parrots, snarky cats, or even a grumpy old tortoise who's had enough of humanity. This question not only invites humor but also allows for playful banter, which can ease any tension in the room. The key here is to keep the mood light and friendly. No one wants to leave a social gathering feeling like they just engaged in a philosophical debate over the morality of talking animals. Finally, don't underestimate the power of nostalgia with a question like, "What's your guilty pleasure TV show?" This is the perfect way to dive into shared experiences while simultaneously revealing the absurdity of our viewing choices. Whether someone confesses to binge-watching reality shows or admits to a secret love for 90s cartoons, you'll find common ground and plenty of laughs. The best part is that no one will judge you for your affinity for shows that involve unlikely survival scenarios or singing competitions, because we all have that one show we can't help but watch. even when we know it's utterly ridiculous. So, throw these fun questions into your conversational toolkit and watch as awkwardness transforms into laughter and connection. Chapter 4: Nonverbal Communication, the Silent Symphony. Facial expressions, the window to their soul, or just a face. Facial expressions are like the emojis of the human experience, except they come with a lot more baggage and less ability to be edited. They can say, "I'm happy to see you," or "Please, for the love of all that is holy, stop talking." For the socially awkward, interpreting these expressions can feel like trying to read hieroglyphics while standing on one foot in a crowded room. A smile could mean warmth or a warning, just like that friend who always looks friendly until you find out they collect taxidermy. So, how do we navigate this minefield of facial communication? Let's dive in and hope we don't trip over our own awkwardness. First, let's consider the classic smile. It's the universal sign of friendliness, but not every smile is created equal. There's the polite smile, perfect for those awkward elevator rides where you pretend to be fascinated by the buttons. Then there's the genuine smile, which lights up the whole face and could probably power a small city. The challenge lies in distinguishing between the two. To the socially awkward, the polite smile may induce a panic attack, as one might think, "Do they actually like me? Or are they just pretending until they can escape?" Pro tip: if you see someone grinning with their eyes crinkled, it's a safe bet you're not in the presence of an undercover taxidermist. Now, let's talk about the infamous resting face. Many of us are blessed, or cursed, with a face that, when unengaged, can resemble a potato contemplating existence. This can lead to a barrage of concerned inquiries such as, "Are you okay?" or "Why do you look so angry?" To counter this, try practicing a neutral expression that doesn't scream, "I'm plotting your demise," or "I'm watching paint dry." Think of it as a default setting for your facial expression. It should say, "I'm approachable, but I also might be lost in thought about what I want for lunch." Eye contact is another delightful layer of the facial expression cake. When you're socially awkward, holding eye contact can feel like trying to stare down a lion. You might be tempted to glance away, but that can send the message that you're more interested in the wall than the person speaking. A good strategy is to practice the art of the glance. Look at them, then look away, then look back, like you're playing a game of social peekaboo. Just remember not to overdo it. You don't want them to think you're auditioning for a role as a confused bird. Finally, let's address the dreaded, resting awkward face. This is the expression that says, "I'm lost, confused, and slightly panicked." It's the face you wear when you're not sure if you should laugh or cry at a joke that just fell flat. To combat this, consider adopting a facial expression that conveys curiosity. Raise an eyebrow, tilt your head slightly, and lean in a little. This signals that you're engaged and can help ease the tension. Plus, it makes you look like you're actually processing the conversation, even if you're really just trying to remember if you left the stove on. With these tips, you'll be on your way to mastering the complex language of facial expressions, one awkward moment at a time. Gestures, when hands speak louder than words. Gestures are the unsung heroes of communication, often swooping in to save the day when words are just too darn hard to find. Picture this. You're at a party, the awkwardness is palpable, and suddenly someone says, "How about those sports teams?" You freeze, your brain sputtering like a car on empty. But wait, your hands can come to the rescue. A well-timed thumbs up, a fist pump, or even the classic, "I'm totally listening," nod can elevate your conversation from a drowning fish to a majestic dolphin leaping through the waves of social interaction. Who knew your hands could be more eloquent than a Shakespearean monologue? Let's talk about the power of the thumbs up. It's the universal signal for "I'm totally on board," or "I have no idea what you just said, but I'm pretending to understand." For shy individuals, it's the perfect way to engage without risking verbal embarrassment. Next time you find yourself in a group setting, don't underestimate the magic of that simple gesture. It's like a secret handshake that says, "I'm here, I'm friendly, and I'll totally nod enthusiastically while you do all the talking." It's not just a thumbs up. It's a thumbs up with a side of confidence and maybe a sprinkle of desperation. Now, we can't ignore the classic talking with your hands phenomenon. For those of us who struggle with words, flailing limbs can be our best friends. Think of your hands as the animated sidekick in your social story. They can illustrate your excitement about that new Netflix series or the sheer horror of stepping on a Lego. Just remember, there's a fine line between expressive and excessive. If your hand gestures start resembling a windmill caught in a hurricane, it might be time to rein it in before you accidentally launch someone's drink across the room. For the neurodiverse individuals among us, nonverbal communication can feel like deciphering hieroglyphics. But fear not. You can practice those gestures in front of a mirror, turning your pre-party pep talk into a full-on Broadway audition. Want to convey interest? Try a gentle lean forward and a slight tilt of your head. Just don't lean so far that you tumble into the nearest snack table. And if you're really feeling bold, throw in a wink. It can be charming or simply terrifying, depending on the situation. A wink can say, "I get it," or I might just blink uncontrollably, so proceed with caution. Finally, let's address the elephant in the room, the fear of rejection. Nothing says I'm approachable quite like an open palm gesture, which screams, "I come in peace," or "I'm not hiding snacks in my pockets." When entering a social gathering, practice the gentle wave, a simple gesture that says, "I'm here, I'm friendly, and I promise not to steal your fries." Remember, gestures can disarm tension faster than a comedic one-liner. So, as you step into your next social event, let your hands do the talking. After all, sometimes it's not what you say, but how wildly your hands flail that truly captures the room's attention. Chapter 5. Social Skills Development. From Awkward to Awesome. The Power of Practice. How to Train Your Inner Social Butterfly. The art of socializing is akin to learning to ride a bike. You wobble, you fall, and you probably embarrass yourself in front of a crowd. But fear not. Just like that bike ride, the key is practice. Picture this. You're at a party, and everyone seems to be engaged in lively conversation while you stand awkwardly by the snack table, debating the existential crisis of whether to grab a chip or a veggie stick. This is where the power of practice comes into play. The more you throw yourself into social situations, even if it feels like you've just jumped into a pool of jelly, the more comfortable you will become. Let's talk about those conversation starters that can feel more daunting than a lion's den. You might think your go-to line of, "So, how about this weather?" is the social equivalent of wearing socks with sandals. But fear not. Practice can transform you into a conversation ninja. Start small. Try engaging your barista in a light-hearted banter about the intricacies of foam art. Go ahead, ask if they can create a foam cat. It's a safe environment, and if it flops, at least you've got your caffeine fix to soften the blow. Now, let's not forget about body language, the silent hero of social interactions. Did you know that crossing your arms in a social setting can make you look like a human chastity belt? To train your inner social butterfly, practice open body language in front of a mirror. Channel your inner model as you strut around your living room, arms uncrossed, and flashing your best smile. If you find your reflection laughing at you, congratulations! You're on the right track. Remember, the aim is to look approachable, not like you're preparing to ward off an imminent bear attack. Role-playing exercises are another gem in the treasure chest of social skills. Grab a friend, or even your cat if you're feeling particularly brave, and set up mock social scenarios. Pretend you're at a family gathering and Aunt Mildred is asking about your love life. Practice your responses until you can answer without breaking into a sweat. This is where you can also test out your best nonverbal cues, like nodding enthusiastically or raising an eyebrow in intrigue, without the risk of actual judgment from a room full of relatives. Finally, let's address the elephant in the room, the fear of rejection. It's as common as overenthusiastic small talk at awkward parties. But here's a secret. Everyone has felt the sting of rejection, even that seemingly confident person chatting away in the corner. Embrace the possibility that not every interaction will be a hit, and that's okay. Each attempt is a stepping stone toward mastering the social dance. So, when you inevitably stumble, laugh it off and remember that even the most graceful dancers had to trip over a few toes before they found their rhythm. Keep practicing, and soon enough, You'll be gliding through social situations like it's a waltz at a fancy ball. Faking it till you make it. Confidence tricks that work. Picture this. You walk into a room full of people who seem to have come straight out of a confidence brochure. They're laughing, chatting, and probably discussing the latest trends in artisanal cheese or something equally intimidating. Meanwhile, you're contemplating whether it's socially acceptable to stand in the corner while pretending to check your phone for emergencies that don't exist. Here's the deal. In situations like this, faking it can be your best friend. Just think of it as wearing an invisible cape of confidence. You might not feel like a superhero, but if you strut your stuff like one sooner or later, you'll actually start feeling like one. First rule of faking it: posture. If you slump around like a deflated balloon, the only thing you'll attract is the sympathy of the nearest potted plant. Stand tall, shoulders back, chin up, and channel your inner aristocrat. Trust me, even if you're internally screaming, "Why am I here?" your body sends out signals that scream, "I belong." People will start to believe your facade, and in turn, you might just believe it yourself. It's like a magical confidence potion, except it's free and doesn't come with a warning label that says, "May cause awkward encounters." Next up, let's talk about smiling. It's the universal language of "I'm not a serial killer." A well-timed grin can disarm even the most intimidating of social situations. If you're standing awkwardly in a circle, try smiling. Not the weird, forcing a sneeze kind of smile, but a genuine one that says, "Hey, I'm friendly and not here to steal your lunch money." This will not only make you appear more approachable, but will also confuse your brain into thinking you're actually enjoying yourself. It's science. Well, not really, but it feels like it. Now, let's dive into the magical world of conversation starters. When your brain goes blank and you can't remember your own name, it's time to have a few go-to lines stored up. You know, the kind that can spark a conversation faster than you can say, awkward silence. Try something simple like, "What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?" Or, if you could be any character from a cartoon, who would you choose? It's bizarre enough to catch someone's attention and gets them talking, which means you can nod enthusiastically while secretly planning your escape route. Finally, remember that everyone else is just as scared as you are. Seriously. Behind that polished exterior, they're probably worrying about whether they have spinach stuck in their teeth or if their shoes are too loud. So, when in doubt, just look around and remind yourself that you're all in this together, like a bunch of socially awkward superheroes trying to navigate a world that expects you to know how to small talk. Embrace the chaos, keep faking it, and soon enough, you'll find that confidence isn't just a trick, it's a skill you're mastering, one awkward encounter at a time. Chapter 6: Group Settings. Surviving the Social Jungle Gym. Preparing for social events. Your ultimate survival kit. When it comes to preparing for social events, think of yourself as a secret agent embarking on a top-secret mission. Your survival kit is your arsenal, and you need to pack it wisely to ensure you navigate the treacherous waters of awkwardness with the grace of a gazelle and the stealth of a ninja. First things first, channel your inner Boy Scout, and always be prepared. Start with the essentials: mints for fresh breath, a fidget toy to keep your hands busy, and a list of conversation starters that can double as icebreakers. Remember, nothing breaks the ice quite like a well-timed joke about penguins. They may be flightless, but your social skills don't have to be. Next, let's talk wardrobe. Your clothing should be comfortable enough to allow you to move freely, but chic enough that you don't resemble a human potato. Aim for that magical balance where you feel like you could either take on the world or blend in with a crowd of fashionistas. Pro tip: wear something with pockets. You'll need them for all those emergency snacks and stress balls you'll inevitably find yourself reaching for. And yes, wearing a superhero-themed shirt under your blazer is totally acceptable. Just think of it as your personal shield against social anxiety. Now, on to the nonverbal communication aspect, an often overlooked part of your survival kit. Master the art of the nod and smile combo. It's like the universal signal for "I'm friendly, please don't run away." Practice your power poses in front of a mirror to boost your confidence. A little bit of dramatic flair can go a long way. When you enter a social event, stride in like you own the place, even if your insides are doing the cha-cha. Remember, if you look confident, people will assume you know what you're doing. Spoiler alert, you probably don't, but who's checking? Let's not forget about the conversation starters. Prepare a few go-to lines that can help you navigate the dreaded small talk. So, do you think cats have a secret agenda? Can work wonders. But keep it light. If your first attempt at conversation bombs, pivot to discussing the weather or the refreshments. Everyone loves food, right? If you find yourself lost in a conversation and need a quick escape, a strategic, "I need to refresh my drink," can save the day. Just be sure to actually get a drink and not hide in the restroom, contemplating your life choices. Finally, practice makes perfect. Embrace role-playing exercises with trusted friends or even your mirror. Rehearse those awkward moments. They're like the training montages in movies where the hero learns to kick butt. The more you practice, the less daunting social events become. And remember, even the most experienced social butterflies have their clumsy moments. If you trip over your own feet or accidentally make eye contact with someone for too long, don't panic. Just laugh it off and tell them it's part of your charm. After all, being a little awkward is what makes you uniquely you. The fine art of small talk. How to keep the crickets at bay. Small talk is the social equivalent of a warm-up lap before the big race. You wouldn't dive into a marathon without first stretching out those legs, right? The same goes for conversations. Yet, here we are, staring at each other like two deer caught in headlights, waiting for someone to break the ice. The trick is to keep those crickets at bay, because nothing says I'm socially awkward quite like an awkward silence that lasts longer than your aunt's Thanksgiving stories. So, let's learn the fine art of small talk and ensure we don't end up in a conversation graveyard. First, you need a solid arsenal of conversation starters. Think of them as your social Swiss Army knife. You might want to avoid asking someone about their opinion on quantum physics unless you're prepared for a deep dive into the multiverse. Instead, stick to the classics. "What do you think of this weather?" is a time-tested gem. It's neutral, safe, and gives you both something to nod about while you mentally prepare for the next topic. And if the weather doesn't cut it, remember, everyone has an opinion about pineapple on pizza. Just tread carefully. Food preferences can be as contentious as politics at family reunions. Body language is your silent wingman in this small talk journey. When you're engaging in a conversation, remember to channel your inner open book rather than a closed door. A relaxed posture, leaning in slightly, and maintaining eye contact can make you look like a social butterfly instead of a wallflower. If you find yourself talking to someone who looks like they'd rather be anywhere else, feel free to adjust your approach. Maybe they love cats? A well-placed "did you hear about that cat that can play the piano?" might just bring a spark to their interest and save you both from the impending cricket symphony. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the fear of rejection. The mere thought can send shivers down your spine, but remember, everyone has faced rejection at some point. Even the most charming socialites have had their share of "I'm too busy" responses. The key is to treat social interactions like a game of darts. Sometimes you'll hit the bullseye, and other times, you'll just miss the board entirely. Embrace that. Each failed attempt is just practice, so wear your social mishaps like badges of honor and move on. Who knows? You might just find someone who appreciates your quirky conversational style. Finally, practice makes perfect. If you're serious about mastering the fine art of small talk, consider role-playing with a trusted friend. Pretend you're at a party, and your mission is to keep the conversation flowing while avoiding those pesky crickets. Take turns being the listener and the talker, and don't shy away from the occasional absurdity. After all, humor is the best glue in social situations. With practice, you'll find that small talk can transition from a dreaded chore into a delightful dance. So lace up those metaphorical shoes and get ready to waltz your way through conversations with confidence and a touch of charm. Chapter 7. Fear of Rejection. Your new best frenemy. Understanding rejection. It's not you, it's them, probably. Understanding rejection can feel like being told you've been voted off the island, but let's face it, sometimes it's just a case of bad timing or mismatched interests. Imagine this. You're at a party, mustering up the courage to approach someone, and you trip over an invisible carpet, sending your drink flying. As you awkwardly clean up your mess, you might think, well, there goes my chance. But what if that person was already preoccupied with their own invisible carpet situation? Spoiler alert, it's probably not about you. But let's not let logic stop us from feeling a little dramatic. First and foremost, rejection is as common as that one friend who always shows up late. Everyone experiences it, even the people who seem to have their social lives perfectly curated on Instagram. Think of it as a rite of passage into the awkward realm. You ask someone out, they politely decline, and you go home to binge watch your favorite show while eating ice cream straight from the tub. In that moment, you may feel like you've been struck by Cupid's arrow, only to find out it was actually just a rubber band. Remember, the reasons for rejection can be as varied as the flavors of ice cream, too many to list and hard to pin down. Let's break down some classic reasons for rejection that have absolutely nothing to do with your charming personality. Perhaps the person is dealing with their own social anxieties or is simply having a bad hair day that has spiraled into an existential crisis. Or maybe they're just really into their current Netflix binge and can't even think about socializing. It's like trying to convince a cat to take a bath. Some things are just not going to happen, and it's not personal. So, when you face rejection, remember it's not a reflection of your worth or your ability to rock that quirky sweater. Now, let's talk about the art of interpreting body language, because it's like reading a novel where half the pages are missing. Sometimes, people's nonverbal cues can send mixed signals that leave you more confused than trying to decipher a toddler's crayon drawing. A smile doesn't always mean interest, and crossed arms might not be as defensive as they seem. Maybe they're just cold. If someone seems distracted or pulls out their phone mid-conversation, it could be a sign that they're not fully invested. So, take a deep breath and try not to take it personally when you realize that their attention is more on their phone than on your riveting story about that time you tripped over nothing. Ultimately, overcoming the fear of rejection is about embracing the unpredictable nature of social interactions. Remember, every awkward moment is a badge of honor in the realm of social skills development. Practice makes perfect, or at least it makes you less likely to embarrass yourself at the next gathering. Role-playing exercises can help you navigate these tricky situations, making it easier to read social cues and respond without feeling like you just stepped into a Shakespearean tragedy. So, the next time you face rejection, channel your inner comedian, laugh it off, and remind yourself, it's not you, it's them, probably. Coping mechanisms. How to laugh off awkward moments. Awkward moments are like that one friend who shows up uninvited to every party. You can't avoid them, but you can learn to laugh about their antics. When you find yourself in a cringeworthy situation, whether it's mispronouncing someone's name or accidentally spilling your drink on the one person you are trying to impress, remember, laughter is your secret weapon. Not only does it lighten the mood, but it also signals to those around you that you're not taking yourself too seriously. Embrace the power of humor as a coping mechanism, and you'll turn those mortifying moments into hilarious anecdotes instead. Picture this. You walk into a room, and everyone turns to look at you. Your brain screams, "Run," but instead, you trip over your own feet and land in an awkward heap. Instead of lying there in embarrassment, consider channeling your inner stand-up comedian. Crack a joke about your lack of coordination or pretend to perform a dramatic feint. By laughing at yourself, you not only diffuse the situation but also invite others to join in on the fun. People love a good laugh, and who knows? You might just inspire someone else to share their own clumsy stories, creating a camaraderie that makes the awkwardness feel a little less isolating. In the realm of social interaction, timing is everything, and humor is your best friend. When faced with a socially awkward moment, think of it as the perfect opportunity for a witty comeback. If you accidentally call your boss Mom, you could say, "Well, I guess I'm just looking for a little nurturing in the workplace." A lighthearted quip can turn a potentially cringe-inducing situation into a memorable one, and suddenly, you're the life of the party, at least in your own mind. It's all about reframing the narrative and reminding yourself that a little humor can go a long way. Of course, not every awkward moment is ripe for a punchline. Sometimes, the best coping mechanism is simply to acknowledge the awkwardness with a smile and move on. If someone steps on your foot while you're trying to make a graceful exit, a simple, "Hey, at least I know I have a killer dance move," can save you from the depths of despair. By openly recognizing the awkwardness, you allow yourself to be human, relatable, and, dare I say, charmingly flawed. It's a reminder that everyone has their off days, and embracing them can be a refreshing change of pace in a world that often feels overly polished. Finally, laughter is contagious, so don't be afraid to spread the joy. If you can turn your own awkward slip-ups into a source of amusement, you'll likely inspire others to do the same. The next time your friend stumbles over their words or accidentally mixes up your name with their pets, jump in with a chuckle and a playful tease. By creating an environment where laughter reigns supreme, you not only lessen the sting of the awkward moment, but also foster deeper connections with those around you. So, the next time life hands you an awkward lemon, grab your friends, make some lemonade, and toast to the hilarity of being human. Chapter 8. Role-playing, the ultimate social simulation. How to create your own social lab without a degree. Creating your own social lab without a degree is as easy as pie, if that pie was made from awkwardness and a hint of social anxiety. First, you need to gather your materials. You don't need a fancy lab coat or safety goggles. All you really need is a small group of brave souls willing to dive into the chaotic world of social interactions with you. You might call them friends, or you might call them your social guinea pigs. Either way, recruit a few people who are just as eager to improve their social skills as you are. Remember, the more awkward, the merrier. Next, set the scene for your experiments. This can be anywhere from a cozy living room to a local coffee shop, anywhere you can observe social cues without the pressure of an audience. Think of it as a social playground where you can try out conversation starters and nonverbal cues without the fear of being judged. Make sure to stock up on snacks, as everyone knows that food is the ultimate social lubricant. Nothing breaks the ice quite like a shared bag of chips and the awkward crunching that follows. Now comes the fun part, the experiments. You can start with simple activities, like testing out different ways to initiate conversations. Try out classic openers like, "So, what do you think of the weather?" and gauge reactions. Spoiler alert, if the reply is a blank stare, it's time to switch things up. You might also want to practice your body language. Go ahead and stand a little taller, smile like you just won the lottery, and watch as your friends try not to giggle at your newfound enthusiasm. Just remember, no one's studying for a degree here. It's all about trial and error, and plenty of laughter. As you progress in your social lab, introduce role-playing exercises. Pretend you're at a party and practice how to gracefully escape a conversation about something utterly boring, like the history of paint drying. This is where the real magic happens. You can also create hypothetical scenarios where you face common social fears, like approaching a crush. After all, what's a social lab without some dramatic reenactments? Don't forget to give each other constructive feedback, because what's more awkward than stumbling through social situations without a single tip to improve? Finally, embrace the chaos and remember that failure is just a stepping stone to success. Each awkward moment is merely data for your social experiments, and the more you practice, the less awkward you'll feel. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small, whether it's successfully remembering someone's name or managing to keep a conversation going for more than 30 seconds. Who needs a degree when you have the power of friendship, snacks, and a willingness to embrace your inner social scientist? After all, the only thing you truly need to be a social lab genius is the courage to try, fail, and laugh at your own awkwardness. Fun role-playing scenarios, turning awkwardness into awesomeness. Imagine walking into a party where the music is pumping, the laughter is echoing, and you're suddenly struck by the overwhelming urge to become one with the wall. Fear not, courageous reader. Instead of blending into the wallpaper, why not spice things up with some fun role-playing scenarios? Picture this. You become the eccentric character who misinterprets social cues in the most hilarious ways. Oh, you're waving? I thought you were signaling for help. These scenarios not only lighten the mood, but also give you a chance to practice reading body language without the pressure of real-life stakes. Let's dive into a classic, the overzealous complimenter. In this roleplay, you take on the persona of someone who gives compliments so enthusiastic that it becomes absurd. "I love your shoes. They're like two magnificent swans that have decided to make a fashion statement." Your partner can practice their response, whether it be a gracious acceptance or a confused look. This exercise not only makes you both laugh, but also helps you learn the fine line between genuine flattery and cringeworthy comments. And who knows? You might just discover your inner compliment ninja. Now let's switch gears to the awkward silence champion. In this scenario, you and your partner alternate between asking each other the most mundane questions imaginable. What's your favorite color? Green. Followed by a dramatic pause worthy of a soap opera. The challenge is to see who can endure the silence the longest without bursting into laughter or changing the subject. This exercise is a brilliant way to embrace those uncomfortable moments we often dread in conversations. By recognizing that silence is a natural part of dialogue, you can transform it from a source of anxiety to an opportunity for humor. Next, let's get physical with the interpretive dance of communication. Here, you and your partner take on the roles of two people trying to convey their thoughts and feelings through exaggerated body language and ridiculous movements. Imagine trying to express, "I'm hungry," through an interpretive dance that resembles a combination of a starving giraffe and a confused penguin. This not only sharpens your nonverbal communication skills, but also encourages creativity and spontaneity. Plus, you'll have a blast watching each other's attempts at conveying messages that are usually lost in translation. Finally, there's the rejection resilience challenge. In this playful scenario, one person must deliver exaggeratedly ridiculous reasons for rejecting an invitation or a compliment like, "I can't hang out," "My pet goldfish is having a midlife crisis," while the other practices their best poker face. This roleplay can help you learn to deal with rejection with grace and humor, reminding you that not every social interaction has to be taken seriously. By transforming the fear of rejection into a playful challenge, you'll find yourself better prepared to face real-life scenarios with a newfound sense of confidence and a smile. Chapter 9. Conclusion. Embracing your inner awkward genius. Celebrating progress in social skills is like throwing a party for your awkwardness, where the theme is every step counts, even the stumbles. Picture this. You're at a gathering, and you finally muster the courage to engage in small talk. You approach someone and say, "Nice weather we're having." It's like the sun is auditioning for a role in a rom-com. Sure, you may have missed the mark, but congratulations. You've taken a step out of your comfort zone. The key is to embrace these moments, however cringeworthy they may seem, as essential milestones on your journey to social ease. Let's not forget that every social interaction is a learning opportunity, even the ones that leave you feeling like you just tripped over your own feet in front of a crowd. Remember that time you tried to compliment someone and accidentally referenced their interesting choice of hair color instead of hat? That's a classic awkward moment, but in reality, it's invaluable feedback. You now know to pay closer attention to what someone is wearing before you speak, and that's progress. The more you throw yourself into these situations, the more you'll develop a toolkit of social cues, making you the Sherlock Holmes of awkward encounters. Now, let's talk about those stumbles. They can feel like an avalanche of embarrassment, but they're often the best teachers. Take the time you accidentally interrupted a conversation with a loud sorry, instead of joining in seamlessly. Sure, it felt like your face was on fire, but guess what? You've just learned the art of timing. Next time, you'll know to observe the flow of conversation before jumping in with your inner monologue about your cat's latest antics. So, rather than hiding under the nearest tablecloth, consider each stumble as an amusing anecdote you can share later, like a badge of quirky honor. In this journey, celebrating small victories is crucial. Did you manage to make eye contact for a solid 3 seconds? Cue the confetti. Did you successfully navigate a group conversation without resorting to your go-to "tell me about your hobbies" question? You should reward yourself with a high five or maybe a cupcake. Each achievement, no matter how minor, deserves recognition. After all, if you can laugh at yourself, you're already winning half the battle. Embrace the absurdity of your social misadventures. They are the tales that will make you relatable and, dare we say, charming. Finally, remember that every step, stumbles included, brings you closer to becoming the social butterfly you aspire to be. Share your experiences with others who are on the same journey. You'll find that laughter is the best icebreaker, and you may even inspire someone else to take that leap into the social pool, awkward cannonball and all. So, the next time you feel the cringe creeping in, just remind yourself, progress isn't about perfection. It's about courageously navigating the wonderfully weird world of social interaction, one awkward step at a time. The awkward journey ahead. Keep laughing, keep learning. The journey into social situations can often feel like walking into a surprise party where you're the only one who didn't get the memo. You show up, awkwardly clutching your drink like a life preserver, while everyone else is already knee-deep in laughter and inside jokes. The key here is to embrace the awkwardness and turn it into an art form. Instead of cringing at the sight of a group of friends chatting away, remember that every social blunder you make is just another chapter in your personal comedy show. You might trip over your own words or accidentally wave at someone who wasn't waving at you, but laugh it off. After all, if you don't laugh at yourself, who will? As you navigate the treacherous waters of social interactions, it's crucial to arm yourself with a few trusty conversation starters. Think of them as your social life Swiss Army knife. Ponder the classic, if you could be any character from a movie, who would it be and why? It's a fantastic way to break the ice while giving everyone the chance to showcase their quirky side. Just be prepared for someone to say they'd like to be a potato in a cartoon because, let's face it, who wouldn't want to roll around in a field of imaginary friends? These unexpected answers can lead to laughter and an instant connection, which is much better than standing there wondering if now is the right time to ask about someone's favorite brand of toothpaste. Body language is another element of social interaction that deserves a spotlight. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. With your arms crossed and a frown, you might as well be wearing a "Do Not Disturb" sign. Instead, try to channel your inner body language guru. Smile like you've just won the lottery, and keep your arms open as if you're about to hug a giant, invisible teddy bear. Even if you're feeling like a deer caught in headlights, your body can still communicate warmth and friendliness. And if you accidentally misinterpret someone's body language, like thinking a nod means they want you to keep talking, when really they just want you to stop, just roll with it. In the world of social awkwardness, a good laugh can be the ultimate icebreaker. Preparing for group settings can be a daunting task, but think of it as a rehearsal for the greatest performance of your life. Picture it. You, stepping onto the stage of social interaction, armed with your trusty one-liners and an array of silly faces. Before you dive into the social pool, practice your dive at home. Role-playing exercises can be your secret weapon. Grab a friend and simulate various scenarios: the small talk with a stranger, the awkward silence, or even the dreaded "What do you do for fun?" question. The more ridiculous you make it, the better. This way, when you find yourself in the actual situation, you'll feel like a seasoned pro, or at least a well-rehearsed amateur. Finally, let's talk about the fear of rejection. It can loom over you like a dark cloud on a sunny day, but here's a little secret. Everyone experiences rejection, even the social butterflies who seem to float effortlessly from one conversation to another. The next time you feel that pang of anxiety creeping up, remind yourself that even the coolest people have been shot down in their attempts to befriend someone. Embrace the idea that every no brings you closer to a yes, and celebrate each rejection with a healthy dose of humor. After all, what's more entertaining than a story about the time you accidentally spilled your drink on the only person you wanted to impress?
The
Keep
end.
laughing.
Thank you for listening. This was a Mindful Books production. Copyright 2025.